What's up, friends? This is On the Horn. I'm Zach Joachim, featuring my dog Harvey, at my apartment in downtown Richmond after we all just watched VCU beat Duquesne 93-80 as the Rams earned their first road win of the season behind. I led with the spark from Ahmad Nowell in the second half of this game. Terrence Hill and Zach Djokovic, your leading scorers in this game. Let me pull up the stats here. 21 points for Terrence Hill. He was 7 of 12 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Also hit all 5 of his free throw attempts. Zach Djokovic, double-double with 18 points, 11 rebounds, blocked 2 shots, hit 9 of 10 free throws. VCU really played through Djokovic. Down the stretch of this game, Duquesne played a really physical brand of defense, and Djokovic was able to capitalize on that late in this game to get to the line consistently. I know, hey, bud. Harvey, what do you think about the game? Do you want to share your thoughts for On the Horn? He slept through the game. Not a very good journalist. Anyway, so Ahmad Nowell. So I'm sitting at the Siegel Center late writing my stories after VCU's win over Bonaventure on Wednesday. And Phil Martelli played a really short rotation in that game, right? That's something that a lot of people had questions about afterward. Only 7 guys played. Ahmad Nowell didn't get off the bench. Keyshawn Mitchell didn't get off the bench. Jordan Tillery didn't get off the bench. You know, some guys who've contributed prominently in moments this season didn't play in that game. Well, Martelli really lengthened out the rotation today. Let me get the I know, hey bud. Let me get the box score up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys played today. So that's more of the rotation that we'd expect from this team. I thought Keyshawn Mitchell had some really good minutes as well, but we'll get to him in a second because I'll start with Ahmad Nowell. Ahmad Nowell is the last VCU player at the gym on Wednesday, getting shots up at the Siegel Center with graduate assistants. I think you can tell that, you know, look, he's a big recruit out of high school. He's a UConn transfer. He's frustrated that he's not playing a whole lot right now. He ended up with 14 points, 5 of 7 from the field. Really helped VCU fend off a Duquesne comeback in that second half because VCU was in control for large stretches of this game, right? It had 5 lead changes. Those were all in the early goings. Duquesne jumped out to a 5-0 lead, and then VCU had an 11-2 run to respond and were really leading pretty much all the way, the rest of the way. They led for 36-50, Duquesne for just 242. VCU's largest lead was 15, I think, right there at the end at 90-75. And Nowell, man, but Duke's cut it to 1, right? I think it was, 54-53. Let me get to that sequence here. So they cut it to 1 at 54-53. A little bit after a Maximus Edwards 3 on the right wing with 13:30 to play. So VCU came out in the second half after they led by 12 at halftime at 46-34. VCU came out really sloppy in the second half, 5 turnovers in the first few minutes of that second half. And Duquesne was able to trim the deficit all the way down to 1. Things were getting nervy there for a second for VCU. But then a catch and shoot Nowell 3 deep on the right wing off a Terrence Hill assist made it 63-53. That punctuated a 9-0 VCU run at the 10-16 mark. And Duquesne never really got back within striking distance. I know, bud. I know. So Ahmad Nowell's energy, and I just thought he had like the desperation of someone who's played inconsistently, right? Like right out, a couple possessions later, hit another 3 at the top of the key off of Barry Evans' assist for 66-56. And then he dove on the floor after a loose ball in the ensuing defensive possession. That helped force a shot clock violation. And that was huge in that moment. Here's Phil Martelli's quote, talking to Robbie and Rodney after the game on the radio. Our defense built that lead back up. That was when Robbie and Rodney asked how VCU responded and what was the key to them lengthening the lead back out after Duquesne cut this down to 1. It's our defense. That will continue to be the message with them. We have to lock in and guard. We had better stretches today, but we've got to turn that into a full 40 minutes. It's coming. And everyone knows the narrative, right? If you look at the metrics, that this is a really good offensive team. And just basically the point totals, right? I mean, this is one of the best offensive teams VCU's had in a long time. Their offensive metrics have been shooting up, and they haven't been as strong on the defensive end. Now, I think Phil Martelli will say some of that is the pace that they want to play at. And when you're playing that many possessions and not slowing the game down, that other teams are going to get buckets too. But it's absolutely true that they have not played anywhere near up to their potential defensively. They know that. This coaching staff knows that. And so that's what they're harping on to this team right now to try and put together a full 40 minutes on the defensive end. But here's him talking about Ahmad Nowell. Because again, that spark of energy, just the desperation of a guy who hasn't played as much as he'd like to, I think that helped kind of jog VCU back into control of this game. his approach is as good as any I've been around. Martelli said of Nowell. He also said that Mitchell had a really good impact on this game. I thought he played some really strong minutes as well. I mean, the box score doesn't jump out at you. 3 points, a steal, a block, 2 rebounds for Keyshawn, but I thought he affected this game well in the minutes in which he was spelling Lazar Djokovic. Obviously, it hasn't gone his way as much as he'd like. That's Martelli talking about Nowell, but I have so much confidence in him and all those guys. You can sit there and sulk. I tell them all the time, you should be upset you didn't play as much as you want. They want to play. They're probably pissed off at me. I told them, good, make me feel like an idiot, right? And so he's having to manage some difficult conundrums right now with playing time in this group. Obviously, a lot of people have questions about Tyrell Ward, who's not playing at all right now, and was a guy who came into this program against LSU, or from LSU, with high expectations. And I won't get into the details of how Tyrell has responded to the fact that he's not playing. I think it obviously speaks volumes that Ahmad Nowell is getting a chance to come off the bench and contribute and have a spark in a game like this when Tyrell Ward is not. Right? It seems like Nowell has responded correctly to the fact that he hasn't played for stretches this season. And his contribution was huge tonight. Here's Martelli talking about Djokovic as well. It was interesting to me in the post-game comments talking to Robbie and Rodney. He said that, when Lazar came into this program, they didn't really think of him as a guy that they were going to play through in the post and as like a true post scorer. And so they didn't work on a whole lot of entry pass stuff with Lazar. And that's something that they've had to kind of put in later in the season. Them working on the entry passes and getting Lazar Djokovic position in the post, and how Terrence Hill is operating off the ball, I think are two big ways that this team has evolved over the course of the season, because Hill and Djokovic, to me, have established themselves as the leading scorers for this team, right? And as the two guys that you're going to look to in crunch time. Hill had a couple of nice backdoor cuts today for easy finishes around the rim. I think VCU is putting in some schematic adjustments to try and take advantage of the fact that teams are face guarding him, denying him, trying to run him off the 3-point line. That's getting him some easier looks inside. But Terrence still 2 of 5 from 3-point range today. VCU got to the line really consistently as well. Again, that's a physical Duquesne team. What did VCU finish at the free throw line? Let me pull up the full team stats here. VCU finished 24 of 31 at the free throw line. And that's great to see. After early in the season, they were kind of inconsistent in terms of their free throw percentage. They're shooting it really well at the line right now. And I think it was Marcus Leary who asked a couple of weeks ago, what has changed to Phil Martelli, talking about them shooting free throws better. And he just said, we're making them. And I think there's you can't oversimplify that. It's free throws. They're either falling or they're not. It's a mindset thing. And the general trend is that teams are better free throw shooting teams in college basketball as the season goes on relative to early on in the season. Phil said that there's been some studies done on that. Anyway, other overarching narratives here. VCU shot it really well, 11 of 25 from 3. That's 44%, led by Jadrian Tracy, who I think was 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. He's shot it. I'm not sure what his 3-point percentage is on the season, but I feel like he shot it quite well from outside over the course of the year. VCU 53.7% from the field, 29 of 54. Offensive rebounds as well. They had a few possessions that were really lengthened out. 10 offensive rebounds, 18-5 edge, and second chance points. And what's the overall rebounding number too? 33-25 edge for VCU on the glass. Duquesne was playing without, what's that guy's name again? Hughes. What's his first name? I'm looking for it in the story. They're playing without John Hughley IV. Coach's decision. I have no idea what's going on there. But it's the 5th consecutive game that they've been playing without him. And so VCU was able to kind of dominate this game on the inside, although I don't think the points in the paint numbers will say that, because VCU struggled with the high ball screens. Rodney Ashby was talking about that. Adam Epstein was talking about that on the radio broadcast. By the way, if you're watching the game on TV, and you haven't just muted the A10 broadcast and let Robbie and Rodney call the game for you, I highly suggest you do that because it's vastly superior. Michael Phillips and Adam Epstein were talking to me about it today. I think the A10 broadcasters, I didn't listen to any of it, but apparently they were talking about this isn't Shaka Smart's VCU and Havoc anymore, which is obviously a bit of a dated perspective, but you still get that from commentators who aren't very familiar with the program. So Robbie and Rodney, definitely the way to go if you're looking for people who are much more tuned into to the VCU program and the trends over the years and in this season. VCU 43-23 edge and bench points. Obviously Terrence Hill has been a huge part of that. I can't remember a game that they didn't outscore the opposing team's bench this season. 38-34 edge and points in the paint for Duquesne, and I think that's maybe the one glaring negative here is VCU will need to make some schematic adjustments with how they're defending those high ball screens, because Duquesne was able to get the switches that they wanted and get some easy buckets under the rim. That was a big part of how they hung around for stretches of the first half and of how they were able to cut the deficit as much as they did early on in that second half. Before VCU lengthened the lead out again. Duquesne 27 fouls. Again, that's a physical team. VCU spent a lot of time at the line, and they're shooting it well from there. So, anything else? Let me pull up the individual stats again. I think there were a couple other guys that I wanted to touch on in this game. Yeah, so Brandon Jennings, career high 20 points the other day against St. Bonaventure. He was huge down the stretch in that game, right? He only scored 2 points today, but affected the game in a very Brandon Jennings way all over the court. 3 steals, a block, team high 5 assists. For Brandon, I thought his drive and kicks were pivotal in getting other guys open looks on the outside today. He also had a rebound. I think that's a testament to the versatility of this team from a scoring perspective. Obviously, Djokovic and Hill have kind of been the constants, but other guys, one night it might be Nowell, one night it might be Jennings. Nick Lewis, another good game, 13 points, 4 assists, 3 steals. 1 of 3 from 3, 3 of 6 from the field. That's just become commonplace game in and game out for the freshman, who I've said it a few times is I don't think one of the best freshmen in the A10, but one of the best freshman guards in the country right now. JJ Tracy finished with 11 points, 5 turnovers. He had a few moments that I'm sure he and the staff would look back on, and he had 5 turnovers and Jennings had 4. So the two of them, especially I think early in that second half, had a few possessions on the offensive end that they'd probably like to have back. Barry Evans, 6 points, 2 blocks, an assist, 3 rebounds. He had kind of the dagger 3 there, which was good to see because it was on the right wing. I think I made it 84-69 with 2:30 to go in this game. That really felt like the end of it. Terrence Hill also had a huge corner 3 when he curled off a screen a few minutes before that for 71-61. That was, really key in helping VCU just kind of keep separation and not let Duquesne get any hope there late in this game. But I thought that Evans 3 was big because his defender really sagged off him and dared him to shoot it from outside. And he ended up 2 of 3 from 3. So if he can just keep defenders honest and be able to hit those open ones, then that makes him really tough to guard. Michael Bell, 5 points, and 3 rebounds. Didn't stuff the stat sheet, but he played 21 minutes. Was 2 of 4 from the field. And another Michael Bell performance that I think he helped VCU win this game, even if it doesn't pop off off the stat sheet at you. Him and Hill are, consistently the first guys off the bench for VCU. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Rams are now in first place in the A10. Obviously, early on, St. Louis is off this week. So they've got some extra prep relative to VCU ahead of a marquee showdown on Wednesday at the Siegel Center. And Phil Martelli said, he'd heard it referred to as that animal, the environment at the Siegel Center that was so huge in that win over Bonaventure on Wednesday, and VCU getting the stops they needed in those last 6 minutes. And they're going to need that again on Wednesday. They're going to need that, as much as ever against a really good Billikens team. VCU has a chance to really assert itself atop the A10. Huge for them to get the first true road win this season, and an enormous opportunity and challenge coming up on Wednesday against SLU. So I'm Zach Joachim. This is On the Horn. Rams 11-4, 2-0 in the A10. Hold off the second half comeback from Duquesne. Ahmad Nowell's spark was huge. Lazar Djokovic and Terrence Hill, your leading scorers. And we'll see you Wednesday against SLU at the Siegel Center, guys. It's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere. Place is going to be rocking. I'm excited for it. See you there.